They locked her away, sentenced her to die, and silenced her voice. But they forgot one thing. Her German shepherd never stopped listening. When everyone else gave up, he did something no one thought possible, and what he uncovered turned the entire justice system on its head. Officer Elena Ramirez had always been a symbol of resilience. From her first day on the force, she commanded attention, not with loud words, but with quiet strength and unwavering discipline. She didn't join the police for power or praise. She joined to protect the helpless, to stand between chaos and order. Her dedication earned her medals, respect, and a reputation for staying calm in the darkest storms. But none of her achievements compared to the bond she formed with her K9 partner, Shadow. Shadow was no ordinary German shepherd. A retired military dog, he had been reassigned to Elena after her previous partner was killed in the line of duty. Their connection was immediate, almost uncanny. He responded to her voice, her energy, even her silences. Where she went, he followed, tail wagging, eyes sharp, always ready. Together, they became an unstoppable team, cracking down on drug trafficking, search and rescue missions, and gang operations in some of the city's most dangerous zones. Everything changed during a nighttime raid on an illegal weapons bunker. An explosion tore through the building, throwing Elena against a wall. Debris crushed her lower spine. She couldn't move. As flames spread, Shadow dragged her out, bite by bite, inch by inch, ignoring his own wounds. When help arrived, she was alive, but paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors said she'd never walk again. Many thought she'd retire, but not Elena. In her wheelchair, uniform still crisp, she returned to duty. Shadow at her side. If the world expected her to quit, they didn't know her at all. The night it all fell apart started like any other. A call came in, anonymous, urgent. A tip about a potential arms exchange happening in the industrial district. Elena, now serving in a tactical oversight role, was sent to supervise the operation from a mobile command unit nearby. Shadow was with her, alert as always, pacing by her side as officers moved in position under cover of darkness. Suddenly, shots rang out. Officers scrambled. The radio cracked with overlapping voices. Panic, confusion, something had gone terribly wrong. Within minutes, a suspect was down. A young man with no prior record, lying motionless in a pool of blood. A weapon found near him, but not in his hand. Body cams, strangely, had malfunctioned. The footage was corrupted, no clear view of what happened, no definitive proof of who fired the fatal shot. Witnesses were unreliable. One claimed they saw Elena give the order to shoot. Another insisted she fired from her van, despite her inability to even stand. Media outlets devoured the story. Disabled officer executes unarmed suspect, the headline screamed. Protesters gathered outside the precinct by morning. Her decades of service, her sacrifice, they were forgotten in an instant. Elena was stunned. She knew what had happened. She had seen the man raise a gun, shout something incoherent, and she had called it in, but she hadn't fired. She couldn't. Shadow had barked seconds before the shot rang out. Someone else pulled the trigger. But no one wanted the truth. They wanted someone to blame. The courtroom was cold, not just from the air conditioning, but from the way eyes settled on Elena like daggers. Reporters lined the back rows, their pens ready, cameras flashing every time she shifted in her wheelchair. Shadow sat quietly beside her, his military-grade vest pressed tightly against his fur, eyes watching everyone. His presence was both a comfort and a warning. The prosecution wasted no time painting her as a vigilante, an officer who, crippled by trauma and physical limitation, let her emotions override protocol. They presented distorted timelines, flawed audio, and witness testimonies that reeked of fear or influence. One man, a fellow officer, hesitated on the stand. He glanced briefly at Shadow before claiming Elena gave a silent nod to fire. Shadow growled, low and deep, eyes locked on him. The judge ordered the dog restrained. Elena's defense tried to push back, but with no body cam footage and no clear chain of command, doubt bloomed like wildfire. Her prior service record was barely mentioned. Her injuries, her medals, her sacrifice, all reduced to footnotes in a case spinning out of control. She watched the jury, saw some of them flinch when Shadow so much as shifted his weight. Fear clouded reason. When the verdict came, it felt like a punch to the chest. Guilty. Death sentence. The room gasped. Reporters sprinted for exits, but Elena just sat there, stunned. Shadow didn't move. He leaned against her leg, a quiet protest. His breathing slow. His eyes fierce. Something in him knew. They had just made a terrible mistake. Elena had been moved to a high-security detention center, her appeals already being dismissed as desperate noise. Shadow wasn't allowed inside. Instead, he had been relocated to a nearby K-9 holding compound, supposedly for observation. But really, it was to keep him away from her. But Shadow wasn't just pacing anymore. He was calculating. Just past midnight, he made his move. He slipped out of his crate. No one knows how. Some say he bent the cage bars, others that a sympathetic handler left the latch loose. However it happened, Shadow was gone before the morning roll call. Security footage later showed only a blur sprinting through the compound's shadows, silent and determined. Using his advanced scent training, Shadow tracked something no human could have. He followed the trail from the courtroom to a downtown alley, then to a rundown storage unit. There, with jaws and claws, he tore through the wooden floorboards and unearthed a small, rusted metal box. Inside, a hidden gun, wiped clean, but with traces of blood, and a phone. Locked, but not destroyed. Shadow didn't bring it to a random officer. He ran straight to the courthouse steps and dropped the items at the feet of the only person Elena had trusted, her former lieutenant, now retired. The man stared, stunned. It didn't take long for the evidence to be handed to Internal Affairs. That same morning, the DA's office received a tip from an anonymous source. The case was about to be turned upside down. The new evidence hit the district attorney's office like a thunderclap. The phone recovered by Shadow was unlocked by digital forensics within hours, revealing a series of voice memos and encrypted messages. One stood out, a panicked voice message from the real shooter, sent the night of the incident. It detailed fear, regret, and a chilling admission. "I didn't mean to shoot. She told me to wait, but I panicked. I thought he had a gun. I didn't see clearly. I just fired." The voice belonged to the same officer who had testified against Elena. The same one Shadow had growled at in court. That, paired with the weapon, hidden and linked by partial DNA to the victim, was enough to force a full reopening of the case. Public pressure surged. News outlets, once quick to crucify Elena, now tripped over themselves to broadcast Shadow's heroic actions. A public defender filed an emergency motion with the state court. The courtroom was packed again, this time with cameras capturing every moment of Elena's retrial. The real shooter confessed in tears, admitting he was scared to lose his badge and pinned it all on Elena when the chaos unfolded. The jury didn't need long. Verdict overturned. Sentence vacated. Elena was free. When she rolled into the hallway, Shadow was there, tail wagging, body trembling with excitement. The room erupted in applause. Elena didn't cry. She just leaned forward, forehead against his, and whispered, "I knew you'd come for me." And in his own quiet way, he had said, "Always." The story spread like wildfire. News anchors called it the most shocking exoneration in years. Social media erupted with hashtags like #ShadowTheHero and #JusticeForElena. People from all walks of life, officers, veterans, mothers, even former critics, poured their support into letters, posts, and even protests demanding justice for those who protect with loyalty and honor. But the hero everyone couldn't stop talking about was a German Shepherd visitors often came to meet Shadow, school children, journalists, curious strangers. But his favorite moments were quiet. Sitting beside Elena on her porch, head resting on her knee, as the sun dipped below the horizon. One evening, a nurse delivered a letter written by the mother of the young man who had died. It said only this: "Your dog didn't just bring justice. He gave me peace." Elena folded the note gently and tucked it into Shadow's vest. "You were never just a dog," she whispered. "You were my voice when the world refused to hear me."